Hello there, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. This one's going to be going up on EEARTS, even though there's quite a bit of touchy stuff, just because, you gotta do it.
Indeed, touchy is a really, really good word, but we got to get it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said to Cindy, I said, do you want to eat something or do you want to do the second video? And she's like, let's get it out of the way because, when you look at the news, it makes you want to just go and immediately take a shower or a bath or, you got to do a detox after looking at the news.
Well, you do. That's true. We expose ourselves to these frequencies because we want other people to have a chance of getting out of this matrix. So it's definitely within our passion to do it. But then, yeah, you got to take some care afterwards, after you expose yourself to this. And that goes for everybody.
Absolutely. And we do want to thank everybody that's been supporting us over on Ko-Fi. You can do a one-time donation or monthly, just like you could do on Patreon. Ko-Fi actually does not take a share of the money, which is nice. Patreon does. And the only reason we bring up Patreon again is because we had a glitch over there. We do have, I think, 116 people that have been supporting the channel over on Patreon. And you could do it with as little as $1 a month support. On up, there's different tiers there.
Oh, and if I can say a huge thank you to Lily. We appreciate your support. And Morgan, we thank you guys very, very much.
And everybody. So what's going on, is that things are intensifying to an all new degree. Now, yes, this is the sun, but that's why we have, I picked up 3 other ones that will talk about the same thing, a little less dramatic. And they are talking about the fact that over in China, amid fears of, just another lockdown, this society is certainly not what we want for the globe, but it's exactly what some powers that be want for the entire globe. It's just a living nightmare in my mind, everything that we see coming out. When they lock you down, they lock you down. And then every single day going to work, you gotta be checked for, what? There's absolutely zero freedom. To me, these are biological human androids. This is how they're treating people. They're just robots. They're treating them like robots. There's no freedom in there. And so, people have been running, just bailing, climbing over fences, just trying to get out of here because they don't want to go back into isolation. What we're having is the breakdown of society in a slow but predictable way. And even in the poster child of the N period, W period, O period, this is again what's intended for everybody. And still you have people that even growing up in this system, millions of people that lost their lives after the communist revolution and the Great Purge. Same thing with Stalin. But it doesn't matter. You replace one system with another dictatorship of sorts, you end up with the same misery.
They keep doing the same thing over and over. It's just painted, slightly different so that maybe it looks like it's new so people don't catch on very quickly. But we shouldn't think of ourselves as anything special that they wouldn't just come and bulldoze over like they have done with one group of people to the next group of people. We are those entities that they need to keep under control to hold up their form. They need us, but only for that. So that's something that we need to keep in mind and remember that there's these 4 pillars that they use to keep us under control. And one of them is medical, there's the monetary, there's the religion, and then there's the school system. So those are the things they use on us.
You guys ever hear of Stockholm syndrome? It's a theorized condition in which hostages develop a psychological bond with their captors during captivity. A psychological bond with their captors during captivity. supposed to result from a rather specific set of circumstances, namely the power imbalances contained in hostage-taking, kidnapping, and abusive relationships. What we have going on here, in my mind, would qualify. When you see constant lockdowns, anybody that is caught, breaking this, I've seen tons of videos where people are getting walloped with batons and dragged away. And, this is creating Stockholm syndrome for humanity. This for China for sure. It's conditioning. It's beating people into submission completely. This is what's going on. And so they're also drawing up plans to isolate migrant workers. The world is just one big migrant camp. And that's one of the things we have to recognize. We might feel all secure because maybe we grew up in the same town. I lived 42 years in within 12 miles before becoming a gypsy. But there will be countless gypsies on this planet, especially in the upcoming years with the with what might appear to be Earth changes, and we can kind of leave it at that. There's going to be a lot of different events that will uproot people if the plan keeps playing out. So here you have people just heading for the hills at any cost. They can't take it anymore. And this is one of the things that we're going to see all around the globe. People being pushed to the point where they're either going to become completely broken and end up as slaves, or, and in reality, debt slavery is what we were talking about yesterday. And it is a reality. Or they're going to resist, and you will find little encampments of humanity doing its own thing that will start to grow, and eventually it'll be the end of the system as more and more people leave the system. So here we have the UN General Assembly saying Israel's got to get rid of its nuclear weapons, which they never admitted that they have in the first place, but everybody knows they do. Again, a lot of people have pointed out the fact that it seems like Israel just acts on a different, from a different set of rules than everybody else. But in reality, the power structure, we know rules are not for those that make rules. They're just for those that are being ruled.
That's exactly right.
So this resolution, it's interesting to see what's going to happen. It was 152 to 5 vote. I think there was 24 abstentions. So, probably nothing will really happen, except for there is the swinging of that pendulum. And the pendulum swings from the left to the right, right? I mean, we had Clinton, and then we shifted over to the Bushes. Then we shift over to Obama. Whoa, then we shift back to 45. That was a big shift. Whoa, now we're back over at 46. We're all getting nauseous. What comes next? Barf bags, please.
Please.
This is all how they get humanity nauseous. And I really felt that one talking about it. UK responds to Russian accusation over Nord Stream. So the Russians, by the way, said that, the UK was involved in this, if not necessarily that they were acting alone, but probably with the U.S. or some other NATO agencies in getting rid of the Nord Stream pipeline with the bombing with either a drone or, there was a plane that was over the area. I know Monkeyworks had pointed that out. And, of course, the UK says, we didn't do anything. How dare you? NATO applicant outlines stance on hosting nuclear weapons. This is the Finnish Prime Minister, Sanna Marin. Won't rule out that the U.S.-led bloc will be allowed to, basically go ahead and put the end stuff over there. Again, it should be removed from the planet, as should the leadership of the planet entirely. Now, then we'll get some real change. And we mean all of them. I mean, from Putin to Xi to 46 to, you name it. It's the power structure. It's the good old boys club. And believe me, the puppets that are being manipulated, they're all on strings, all of them. There's not one that's making their own decisions.
And each one is tied into some form of blackmail. Maybe it's emotional blackmail. Maybe it's, if you want to keep your life comfortable type of blackmail, but there's blackmail.
Yeah, you could live in a palace, you could have anything you ever want to eat at any particular time, or, there's a nice plot in the local, you get it, right?
Yep.
Okay, Ukrainian refugees return home despite warnings not to. More than 6 million people have returned home in Ukraine despite the war raging on. And of course, that could shift all of a sudden. But when you think about it, the people truly do go through hell. And again, it's recognizing the fact that, is this war the fault of the Russian people? Is it the fault of the Ukrainian people? No. Are there people that are blindly going along with things because they believe the official narrative? Yes, absolutely. At some point in time, we gotta wake up and smell the coffee and recognize what's going on. It's part of a bigger plan. Yet people suffer. World War I, World War II, they did happen. World War III is scheduled to happen. The only way we could avert it is to get the people that are going to fight it to say they won't fight. That's the bottom line. And so we got to wake people up. And they are waking up. It's just not fast enough. Ukrainians could freeze to death this winter, so says the Kiev mayor again. Now, they want you to send blankets and warm clothing. That's not included in all those billions and billions. Oh, no, that's just, again, it's just like a discretionary budget. More than 50% is all about death and destruction, and the rest of it, well, everything else.
It's just, it gets so deplorable. Diabolical is the word that's keeps coming up over and over and over.
Well, I mean, we could start a song, Joe must go, but it can't just end there. I mean, we got to, by the time we get done with, who else must go, there won't be any politicians sitting on their thrones anywhere. There won't be any governmental agencies. And here we see the UN warns deadliest year for Palestinians. A lot of good you are, right? I mean, and why don't people just come out and say this? These United Nations, which was the second entity, the League of Nations first, and then the United Nations, if they're supposed to bring about global peace and understanding and communications, they are pathetic at it. Just like the WHO is pathetic at keeping people healthy, or the FDA, or the CDC. These organizations are totally incompetent. Or there's something else going on,
Yes, I know.
20%, about 20% of Seattle shootings happen near homeless encampments, which are growing, obviously, and that's growing nationally as well. It's the amount of people that are homeless. Then you take the amount of homes that are being kept empty. You add in the fact that you have BlackRock, Vanguard, and many other extremely wealthy organizations that are cleaning up the drool from their mouths because they're salivating over all the people that are going to lose their homes. They're going to buy them up dirt cheap and then rent them back to people at 3 times the cost. Yeah. This is an absolutely sick system that is so corrupt. It is way beyond salvaging. That's the bottom line. So 50-year high for the percentage of Americans who say local crime is up. And this is really just getting rolling, unfortunately, because, again, we have all the damage to the food systems. I mean, how many unexplained fires did we see? And related to food, related to energy, how many, different plants related to energy that were mysteriously on fire. This is just so obviously, so completely orchestrated. We really, truly must be doing a wonderful job digging our heads deeper and deeper into the sand to not see this. So again, please do share these videos. I cannot post anything and have not been able to post anything on, say, Godlike Productions, which is a forum. We're totally shadow banned from Godlike. So there's nothing we can post there. And other places like Reddit too, you end up being totally ostracized and totally banned because they are part of this system. And, again, this is part of what we're up against. But the tidal wave of humanity awakening is going to be something that they're not going to be able to stop. Russia suspends participation in Ukraine grain deal after massive drone attack on Black Sea fleet. And there are videos in here that show the drone attack. This is a different war that's going to take place, and it's going to lead to a lot of confusion because people won't even know. And, whether it's civilians or military personnel, they won't even know what happened. They just will find themselves out of the body and be just so confused as to what happened. Just really like what happened over in South Korea, really, in many cases right now, with the people that are awakening to find that they're no longer in their bodies and they're wandering about confused still.
It's something that you just reach a point and you're like, oh my gosh, and you start to become numb to the information, but we need to turn that numbness to a kind of Buddhist detachment, because we need to acknowledge it so we know what direction to go. We need to be attached to our higher selves so we feel pulled in the right direction, because higher self is, it's much higher than us. It's looking down on a perspective that we can't see necessarily here in the 3D. So until we make those connections, those spiritual connections, we can tend to be a little bit lost and maybe find ourselves off of our path. So at this point, alignment and spirituality and going within, these are all the answers that we really need to be seeking. And Mike and I, we don't like to cover information like this. It can impede on our health, but we definitely cleanse after every video. And we know that there's people out there with very big hearts, huge hearts, that want to make a difference, that want to get themselves in a different situation, but they got to know at least what's going on so they know which direction is best for them to go in.
And as Cindy has gotten from the guides, if anything ever happens and you do experience that yourself, you best thing to do is stay put. People have said, is this a case? Do we go into the light? Do we not go into the light? The best thing is stay put and wait for a guide, somebody that's going to be familiar to you, to come and help you. And we do have a welcoming party, so to speak, when we get back on the other side. And usually it'll be a family member, or it'll be somebody that perhaps you suspected was a guide, even though maybe you didn't fully acknowledge it.
Yes, understand that these familiar presences will be around us when we make that change. It's a change. It's something different. It's our home. It's where we're from. When we're in these bodies, we tend to make completely different decisions than we would if we understood and were attached to our higher self, and with those blocks were removed. So understanding, yes, if you do find yourself out of body, sit and wait. Just wait until you understand what's happened, until everything makes sense, and then make your moves.
It makes me think of Hunger Games when I look at this and other sci-fi dystopian futures that are envisioned by the movie industry. Lockdown, Foxconn employees in iPhone City scuffle over food rations after that lockdown. So people fighting over what's left in the vending machines, different rations, rationing. In some ways, this is, like Cindy was saying this morning, it's reminding her of Dark City, that movie where every night the controllers, who are extraterrestrials, inhabiting bodies of humans, shut down everything, reset people into new lives, new work, new different, totally different situations and circumstances, and then go ahead and restart things, trying to discover why one soul will behave a certain way and another one will behave totally different in the same situation.
Right. There's a lot of very good questions to be asked once you start diving a little deeper into the spiritual realm.
So, this is a study on humanity at the same time in some ways. Which ones will basically go ahead and put their own interests ahead at the expense of the masses? Well, Well, we're looking at some of those. You know, if you look over at this picture, not just her, but the one that replaced her, and pretty much everybody that is sitting at a seat there in the U period M period, and the W period E period F period, and we could go on and on and on. These are the ones that are interested in their own survival at the expense of everything else. German bailout of struggling energy giant may reach 60 billion. Uniper is facing financial ruin after the reduction in Russian national gas supplies. What's all this going to lead to? This is going to lead to basically the governments taking over the energy and food sector. And what is that really? Well, again, the bailout comes from the people. So the people get taxed. They take the bailout money, they utilize it for themselves, basically to give themselves more power. This is economic slavery. We are economic slaves. And here's Biden saying that there's 54 states. You know, I think a lot of this is just done to basically kind of, you ever see somebody scratch their chin with just the middle finger? You know, I think that's kind of what's happening to humanity is a little controller laugh at, you know, come on, you got to get this. This guy doesn't make any decisions. And yet more and more people, you know, have made decisions that they don't even have a chance to regret. Not even really a chance to regret because, you know, again, here today, gone tomorrow. And it's just another statistic. I think, was it Marilyn Manson had a song, something about that. You know, the death of one is a tragedy, death of millions, just a statistic. When you look back at what happened with Mao and Stalin, World War I, World War II, to the Americas, you know, and we celebrate Columbus is coming here and then destroying an entire culture on 2 continents. The insanity that only people that would bail on all of humanity would understand and celebrate. Would really understand what went on and celebrate it. The rest are people that don't understand what went on, and they're just celebrating because they don't know any better. But this is why we are here, is to try to wake people up. French protesters clash with people over water facilities. Mega basins in western France turned violent. There was a rally there. Thousands of French activists marched against the deployment of giant water reservoirs for agricultural use in the western part of the country on Saturday, despite an official ban, which resulted in clashes with police and dozens of injuries. What you're seeing now, there was a shoot, I didn't grab it, but there was a case where there was a whole bunch of French police coming out, probably in Paris more than likely, en masse. They went charging into just a massive throng of people, and then when the people didn't move at all, then they all went and ran the other way. This is what's going to happen here. And, you know, at some point in time, these people that don't understand what they're doing, and we're talking about those that are enforcing the will of the minority, you know, when they finally wake up, then we're going to really get some shifting in the power structure. Massive protests by Czechs as well, targeting the sanctions and higher prices. You know, and this doesn't get covered. This is Prague and all over Europe. There's tons of protests. People are getting fed up because it's making their life miserable. Endless money towards the endless wars, endless control, endless quest for more and more power. And, you know, that above the law thing, Gitmo's oldest detainee freed after 20 years, and there was no charges. Never was on trial, never formally charged. They just took 20 years of his life by sticking him in Guantanamo Bay and then just let him go one day. If power can do this, it's just beyond comprehension. Again, it's slavery. We have to wake up to the fact that everybody born into the system is a debt slave. And it's only getting out of debt. And even then, again, do you ever own your property? No, you never own your property. Maybe there's some country out there where you do. I'm not aware of it. But it's debt bondage. History has dealt with punishment of non-payment of debt in a variety of ways. In the early Roman Republic, 2,500 years ago, there was a debt bondage called nexum. In simple terms, a borrower pledged himself as collateral. If he didn't pay his debt, he was enslaved, often for an undetermined period. Jumping quickly to modern times, it would mean that the majority of people, especially in the West, would all be debt slaves today. So, right now we have physical freedom, but what's it going to look like? And just think about it. This is an actual little sign. Great sale of slaves, January 10th, 1855. $3, aged 20 to 26, strong, able-bodied, one wench. Her name's Sally, 42. She's an excellent cook. Another wench, Lizzie, age 23, with a 6-month-old Pekini. $1, 52, good kennel man. $17, aged from 12 to 20, excellent. Strictly cash at sale. That humanity ever had this is an atrocity. I mean, we should know innately that this is wrong. It should never, ever, ever be allowed to happen. And it only happens in Kali Yugas. This is not the way it is in the other ages. And this is an article from Time talking about how Christian slaveholders, even some that signed the Constitution, used the Bible to justify slavery. And this is why we keep bringing it up. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of references to slavery in the Bible. We talked about Colossians 3:22. That 3:22 is really interesting because it's slaves, obey your earthly masters. You got to obey your alien masters as well. And there's tons, and they give you a few other ones that people will quote, just saying, no, it's okay. All men are created equal, but not slaves. So does that include? Now we think in terms of ethnicity and where people were born when we think about slavery, but we have debt slavery now. So that could grab anyone. And what's coming is a worse version of that. Slavery is never condonable.
No, not in any way. And we have to look at those systems that do still condone it and have it in their books that it is some way, shape, or form okay, and then ask ourselves, well, why do I still subscribe to this? Why is this still within my sphere of influence? I understand that there's many good golden nuggets in the Bible, but it is also just to keep you to buying into the rest of it. If a little bit of it is okay, well, then you gotta certainly go buy the rest of it. That's even more okay somehow. And to me, none of that's okay. And that's why I took a step back. But looking at this here, people who struggle with stress can benefit from owning a pet. Oh my gosh, can they ever? I tell you, you guys, our four-legged angels are just that. They are absolute angels to our lives. Oh, and look at this. This was so adorable where this person is. And I've heard of these little horses being, emotional support horses. There is something special about the horses and our ability to see and reflect ourselves into them. And our pets too. When we look at our pets, that is a reflection of us. And they're here to help us, and we're here to help them. And it brings us so much comfort. It even releases those happy hormones that can be trapped and stuck due to years of stress or years of trauma in bad relationships at a job that you can't stand. Having this little ball of fur to come home and love is the best medicine that you'll ever find, ever. And maybe some people are in situations where they can't own a pet right now. Well, I bet you anything, there's a neighbor somewhere close to you that wouldn't mind a little pet sitting, that would enjoy it if their pet's got some extra love and extra care. So there's plenty of this to go around.
Yeah, and when they leave us in the physical body doesn't mean that they really leave us. Like last night, Zeke was up on the bed with us, and he had taken his normal spot, kind of like garden towards the entrance of the door. He jumps into all three of these at different times because, again, when we're in the 4D, we're of that higher vibrational frequency where we could actually literally step inside of another person's body. And many of our controllers are often in that situation where a dark energy walks in, takes them over. You ever wonder how 46 could be bumbling and stumbling? Yeah, there's more than one version. But also, I go back and think about some of the writings I've read about, Hitler, and how he looked like such a tiny, insignificant little man. And all of a sudden, he'd get out there in front of the people, and it wasn't him. It literally wasn't him. There was a dark entity in there that jumped in that was so powerful, so eloquent, and knew exactly how to manipulate people. Well, our pets won't do that when they pass over. No, they just want to love and share, and they can jump into other dogs. And sometimes I see that in Rama. Sometimes I see it in Sita too. And Zeke can even jump into Sassy as well. And we could see his tendencies in all three of them, as he was an extremely well-behaved boy, very loving and all. Although, the two now, Rama and Sita, are a little bit up there better as far as the guard dog, because, Zeke would be like, I think I heard something, but I'm just going to chill here. You want to go check it out? Yeah. Yeah, with these two, it's totally the opposite. It's like they just hear something, boom, they're out there. And, they're checking things out first, and then they get back to us with results. Yes. But just because our pets are not with us that we can necessarily all feel and see and sense, although some of you can, please do share your experiences too. And it's just nice to know that we're never alone, guys. We're never alone. Our loved ones are still with us. There is truly, the time that we perceive is only when we are in these bodies. And also, again, all we have to do to be with somebody is to truly think of them. This is, again, another great reason why. Why would you start a meditative practice? Why would you not? I mean, because the entire universe is yours when you learn to go within.
Mm-hmm. And remember, the information received is coming from the outside of us, so we are able to tap those energies. It is like a ray of light, and every ray of light comes with information, so that comes into our minds. So do think of your loved ones. It does allow their energy to come into you, come to you. And think of your pets too, because sometimes there's that special bond with our pets, and we are able to reach out and feel them again. And when you're able to feel them, they're definitely there with you.
As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.